Alright, so today we're doing surface area of a prism. So firstly you need to understand that a prism is a three-dimensional figure and the base shape remains the same throughout the figure. So I've got an example here. This is a square prism. So that means it's a prism with a square base. Here's your square base at the front. Now that front square is exactly the same as the back square. So the front and the back are opposite faces. In other words, they're completely parallel to each other and will never touch each other. Okay, so that front and back are opposite faces and they are the exact same square shape. That makes it a square prism. Alright, now we're doing surface area. So surface area is when you total up all the areas of all the surfaces in the figure. Okay, so for a prism, there's a few things that happen with all of them. So a lot of people get really confused with this work because there is a lot of working in it. There's nothing really to be confused about if you just take it step by step and show all your working. So for a prism, the surface area is going to include the base shape itself and then the opposite face base shape. Now they'll be exactly the same. Okay, so if the front is your base shape, the back will have the exact same area. If the top is your base shape, the bottom will have the exact same area. Okay, and then we have rectangles. Now there are always rectangles in a prism. Rectangles coming off every edge in the base shape. So I'll show you what I mean with this triangular prism here. So if you just get your red pen and go over that triangle at the front, that's my base shape. Okay, so you'll have to find the area of that face, that surface. Then you'll find the area of its opposite face, which is the triangle at the back. Now because it's a prism, they're going to be exactly the same. So you do the working for this front, but the back will have the same answer. Okay, then after you've done that, you have rectangles. So if I get a different coloured pen, you get a different coloured pen as well. You'll see that off this edge here, if I call that edge 1, I have a rectangle coming off that. Here it is. Okay, so you'll notice that if I look down at edge 2 off the base shape, I've got another rectangle coming off that, and it's the bottom surface there. And then over here I've got a third edge on the triangle, and you can't see it, but back behind this shape you can probably guess that that is a rectangle over there as well. So in all, we're going to have 5 surfaces in this shape. The front and the back, that's 2. And then 3 rectangles coming off those 3 edges. So that's another 3. So you've got 5 faces all together that you have to find the areas of and add up. Okay, so we're going to go through some examples. So in this first one here, they've been a bit slack with this, but if they don't do this, just assume that anything that looks like it's supposed to be perpendicular is, so that there are right angles there. So we have a rectangle at the front. So this is going to be a rectangular prism that we're looking at. Okay, now the working. I really am pedantic about this. You've got to do it properly, otherwise you will leave surfaces out and just lose marks for nothing except that you're disorganised. Okay, so I've got the front area here that's a rectangle. So we're actually writing what surface we're finding so you can see what you've done. So we're doing the front area, and because it's a rectangle, it's LB. Then we're going to put those in. So we've got 12 for the length, and this one here is 8 if you drag that through. So it's 12 by 8. So we'll write that in and work that out. And that's the front face found. The area's done. Okay, the opposite face is the one at the back. So the back area, remember the opposite faces, they'll be exactly the same. So that's going to be another 96 without having to do the working for that. Now the top area is this one up the top here, the ceiling. So we're going to do another rectangle for that, LB. Now the length is 12 and the breadth comes from here, that's 8. So we have another 96. Now the bottom area is the bottom of the ground. So we've got 12 by 8 down the bottom there. Oh, sorry, it's opposite the top. So because the top and the bottom are opposite faces in this rectangular prism, we can see they must be the same. Right, so the top and the bottom, if you think of any box, the top of a rectangular box and the bottom would have the same answer. Okay, the right surface is this one here. It's another rectangle, length times breadth. So we're doing 8 times 8. Sorry. And we end up with 8 8s are 64. Now, the right surface and this left one over here that's a bit hard to see will also have the same area if you think about it. So that'll be another 64. Now, I know some of you are going to want to go, oh, okay, well, I've got a 96 here for the top. I'll just write times 2 on the bottom. You can't do that, all right? Each one has to be written as a separate thing. Okay, now, if you think of any box, you know it's got 6 faces on it. So we should have 6 answers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to add them all up now. So I'm going to write them all down. And we're going to go to the calculator and add them up and see what we end up with. And on the end, we're going to have, it's an area you're finding, so it's going to be square units on the end. And we get 512 centimetres squared. So don't assume that you think you know what's going on with a lot of these, all right? Just go, oh, right, I've got 496s, and probably the rest of them are too. Just think about each surface as they are. All right, now the next one up here. They've told you these 3 sides here are equal. Sorry, I'll just move that around. So they've told you these 3 sides here are equal, which means it's a cube. All right, so I'm going to look at the front face of this cube, and it's a square. So I'm just going to use the area of a square formula, which is s squared. Put in my side length and square it. And just go to the calculator and work that out. We are going to assume that these are all right angles in here, okay, because they're often in diagrams won't actually put them in, but they are. So we work out 6.5 squared and we get 42.25. No units yet because we haven't finished. Okay, now, on this one, because it's a cube, if you think of a die, and think about all the surfaces on a die, you've got 6 faces and they're all the same square shape. So with this one we can go, we have 6 lots of that same area and you can work that out. Okay, so we have got 6 faces accounted for here and we end up with 253.5. And it's in metres this time, metres squared. Okay, looking at the next question now. Always read what they've written. So it says that it's open at the top. So that means it is open at the top. So it's a box, but there's no lid. There's no top. So that means there's one surface there that we're not finding. So we're going to end up with 5 surfaces this time. So let's see how it works. So I know it's open at the top. I'm going to start by finding the bottom, because we're not going to have the top with this one. So the bottom area is this one down the bottom. It's a rectangle, so we're going to do area equals length by breadth. And I've left enough room for that, have I? Just move this out of the way, hang on. So we've got 7.5 times 5.2. And we'll work that out first. And see what we get. And we get 39. Okay, I'll just slide this down a little bit. So the next one we're doing is the front area. And the front area is a rectangle. So we're doing length by breadth. Okay, here's your front. So we're going to do 5.2 by 3.4 and work that out. And you get 17.68. Now that's the front. So we're going to look at the opposite face to the front, which is the back one. They're opposite faces, we know they're the same, so there's another 17.68. Okay, now on the left side of it, so we're looking at this left face here. The length is 7.5 and the breadth comes across from here is 3.4. Okay, and we'll work that one out and see what we get. 25.5. Now that's the left face. So we're going to look at the right face now. So remember, the left and the right are opposite faces. So this left and the right are opposite. They're going to be the same. So there's another 25.5. Now remember, how many surfaces did we have in this shape? There was no top, remember? So we should have 5 surfaces, not 6. All right, so let's just add up the 5 of them. Okay, and we're going to total up those 5 and see what we get. So it's a little bit time consuming, but the marks in the exam will reflect that, so you will get more marks for these questions. So make sure you're showing all your working, because it's the only way to make sure you've got everything included that you should have. And we get 125.36. And this time it's in metres and it's squared. Okay, so we're coming back in the next video because we need to do a lot more practice on these questions.